Greetings once again. I, I am coughing again. Bill Fairman, Wendy Sweet, Jonathan Davis, Carolina Capital Management. Welcome to another episode of Active Income Passive Wealth.
Very well said.
And I was able to say it properly and
I'm
correctly.
impressed.
I thought it was active wealth, passive income.
Well, I'm reading it right here. Passive income, active wealth. Unless we spelled it improperly or put the wrong words in the wrong place. I'm getting it right. So our website, by the way, I'm doing this to mess with Scott in the background. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. Hit the bell. Put little hearts. If you have any questions, we have a little comment section on the side or underneath, depending on the platform that you are viewing. Ask a question anytime, even if it's after the show, because we always have someone that will scrape and then add that to the future show. Website is carolinahardmoney.com. We are lenders, in case you're wondering. So if you're a borrower looking to borrow some money, then click on the Apply Now tab. If you are an investor looking for passive income, click on the Invest tab. Phew. I got all that out without coughing much. How's that?
Great job. Great job.
We have a great show today. We have a great friend, Brett Snodgrass. He's one of our buddies at CG. I know we talk about this all the time. We are very fortunate to be a part of Collective Genius, where we have, by the way, none of us are geniuses, but collectively
we score 170. It's great.
And I'm always touting this. Collective Genius is our insurance policy and our board of directors.
Mm-hmm.
When you're a small business person, you need help from others. It's a team sport. Unfortunately, most small businesses are individuals, but you need help. And one of the benefits of having a group like Collective Genius is because you have people from all over the country, and we're able to actually see what's coming from one side of the country to the other and not have to react, but what's the word I'm looking for? Anyway, we're able to stay in front of changing markets. See, that's another thing. I might not be coughing, but my brain is a little bit slower than it usually is.
West, Wendy, not to hold her comments.
I'm not going to say a word.
I know she wants to jump right in there. Okay.
Unfortunately, I too have foggy brain, and I'm a little behind the times as well. But I'm getting better every day. That's the key.
This has got to be the weirdest virus I think I've ever had. I've had worse flus, don't get me wrong, but this thing just it wears you out and it lingers like crazy.
It goes away and it comes back, and it goes away and it comes back. And I was, telling you guys earlier, this is my 16th day with a fever. Just a low grade fever, few hours, and then it'll go away. And it's absolutely weird. Absolutely weird. But we're part of the herd now.
That's right.
Right?
Thank you, Don, for adding the word for me.
Respond.
All right. So I failed to mention the current breaking news for the day, business news for the day earlier. So I'm going to do it now.
Live from New York.
It's Bill Fairman.
That's right. So obviously the employment numbers came out today. The continuing claims were lower than expected. So continuing claims were the people that consistently are out of work. It was in the 17 million range, which is still high, but it's not 20 where we started. And then new claims this week was in, they were expecting like 775. It came in at 751, which is still lower. It's all going in a great direction, or at least a good direction. Our GDP numbers for the third quarter were through the roof. They were expecting 30% GDP growth, and it came in at 33 point something. So it was good growth for the third quarter. Keep in mind, most everything you get quarterly is based on rearward facing numbers. Okay.
Arrears.
Thank you, Scott, for those precise numbers. 33 point something percent. So the economy is pointing in the right direction. I still keep hearing these people talking about the housing market overheating and a bubble perhaps happening, but they never mention the fact that you can't have a bubble if you don't have enough supply. You only have a bubble is when you have more supply than demand. Right?
We think.
All
No,
right.
yeah, you're right.
Well, prices are going up because of supply and demand, not because of speculation. And as long as we're looking at it that way, I think we're going to be in good shape for a while. It doesn't mean there won't be bumps in the road. There's always bumps in the road, but that's why we love the single family affordable housing space, and that's why we're sticking with it. Right?
Low interest rates, and there's a lot of people needing homes.
Yeah, but I'm anxious to hear how the cost of supplies, construction supplies, are going to make a difference in any new construction or even the rehabs going on. Wood is just, lumber is insane high. The sheetrock is higher. Every single thing you go to buy is so much higher. Cabinets. When you're ordering cabinets, it takes, where it was a 2 to 3 week order, it's more than double that now. And it's
Windows. I mean, that's another one.
Windows, same way. So it's, and although the supplies for like Lowe's and Home Depot and builder supply companies in our area, they seem to be stocked pretty well. I'm hearing from people elsewhere, like in Florida, that the shelves are almost empty, that there just isn't a whole lot available to choose from at this point. So I'm anxious to see what that's going to do, if anything, to affect new construction and rehab stuff.
Well, it doesn't help when Mother Nature throws 14 hurricanes at you in one summer.
Well, it's kind of crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, and unfortunately, 7 of them all went to the same place.
Right.
But that'll cause the prices to continually go up. But that always leaves room for innovation to come in and find ways to find a product that will replace a more expensive one and level the playing field.
Yeah.
It happens in every single industry. The good news is oil is down to less than $35 a barrel. So that's
only good news if you not an oil company or invested in them. Yeah.
Energy is like a tax, and lower the energy costs, the less it costs to do everything.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you're in the oil sector, maybe not so good, but what's bad for some is good for others.
Right.
Pardon me. Let's bring Brett on, because I know he's getting tired of picking through the green M&Ms back there in the green room.
I just loading up on M&Ms here, Bill. I'm good.
How you been? I know we haven't spoken since our last meeting in September, wasn't it?
Yeah. That was at the Florida Collective Genius Tampa. Yeah, I've been great. I've been actually good. I'm actually in a hotel room right now. I had a procedure done. I'll just throw it on the air. I had the man procedure done. So my wife we got 4 kids. So she said, you know what? That's about all we can handle. So
I've got 3, and my wife's already scheduling mine.
So you guys are, quarantine COVID, and I'm just chilling out because of that. So she said to
Wow.
rest. So here I am.
Wow. You know
That's
what,
pretty
Brett? I have to tell you, we both have a really good friend by the name of Don Harris.
Yeah.
I was talking to him yesterday. He's watching this too, and he started talking about you, and he said, he gave you the best compliment that I think anybody could get. He said, it is amazing to see how well he's done. And I was a little worried that he was more interested in getting the gospel out than getting his business out. And I thought, wow, what an incredible compliment.
Oh, well, thanks. I know Don, he used to actually be around Indianapolis quite a bit. And I worked with Don on some transactions. I saw he just made up a comment here. So, hey, Don, how's it going? But that is so true. Actually, I was given a presentation last week in front of a group of entrepreneurs about kind of this year and my journey to freedom is what we called it, because this has been a very interesting year for everybody, but it's even been a more interesting year for me because I have completely stepped out of the business in the last 5 months. And so I'm on this new journey figuring what this looks like for myself. But one of the guys at the presentation said even a few years ago, he remembered I was a lot more interested in, doing my podcast and talking about the Lord more than running the business, honestly. And that was where I really wanted to go. And that's one of the reasons why I've stepped out, is so I can focus on these things that I'm really passionate about. So thanks, Don. Thanks, Wendy. Appreciate it.
That's awesome. That's so awesome. I believe that revival is going to come through our business world, and not really through our churches. I think it's going to come from our business world. And it's really important that we be bold about whose we are and who we are. And I'm just, I'm thrilled that you're on here with us, and bold, and it's great to see what's going on in your world.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree. You have to be bold. And I agree. I remember I was sitting for coffee with my pastor one time when I used to live in Indianapolis. I live in Fort Wayne, Indiana now. But he told me this story, and he was getting ready to graduate from seminary school, become a pastor. And he had a mentor pastor, and he walked into his mentor pastor, his professor's office. And his mentor pastor asked him, like, hey, are you really sure that you want to do this? And he said, well, yeah, absolutely. I want to give everything I can to spread the gospel and to spread the ministry and be a pastor. And the reason why his mentor pastor asked him that was because he came from the marketplace. And he said, I believe that when I was in the marketplace, I had more of an influence and I could make more of a difference for the kingdom than I do now as a pastor. And that just kind of hit home with me. And I think that that's so true. I think that we have such an influence and such, we can spread the kingdom in an amazing way through the marketplace. And I definitely see some people doing it, and I see some people don't. So it's kind of one of those gray areas that you had to tread lightly, but that's one thing I really want to do, is just talk into entrepreneurs' lives, and so they can and for me at least, I've kind of reached this freedom point so that I can do things more significant that matter a lot to me. So
that's awesome.
Excellent. Now, before we get back into what you are doing and your business, I have to go back to the room. So let me understand this. So until you get the procedure, your wife put you in your own room.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, this is my I'm revitalizing myself, resting, and what's funny though is this is actually a really good place. It's in Indiana, but I'll also put this out there. I went to where they did this procedure, and it was called the Happy Dad Clinic, and so but it was really good. I will give a shout out. They were actually really, really good. So, so I'm very happy.
Well, see, I went out at it in a different way. I typically utilize my personality for birth control, and it's worked out well. I have no children.
You just start talking and giving your run-on sentences.
That's
Yeah,
right.
and then they run the other way. So it worked out well. So,
Love that.
so Brent, tell us a little bit more about your business, and then how you've been able to transition out of it.
Yeah, definitely. So I got into real estate back in 2007. I don't come from money. My parents were very middle class Americans. They were actually both teachers. My dad was a high school basketball coach here in Indiana. So my family, all growing up, made anywhere from $40,000 to $60,000. I remember my dad telling me one time he never had more than $5,000 sitting in his bank account at one time. So we always lived paycheck to paycheck. That was just kind of how I grew up. But I had a great childhood. My parents are actually still married. They have been married for over 40 years. And I talk to them all the time. And they're one of my biggest fans, encouraging me to continue and take more risks and all that. But I've always been also an entrepreneur at heart. Even in the middle school, I would buy candy and sell it at lunch, or I was always, counting my money in my piggy bank. And if you put a dollar sign behind math, I was very, very interested in it. So, so I graduated college with an elementary education degree as a teacher, because my parents were teachers and I didn't really know what else to do. So that's what I got. I tried teaching for about 4 months after college, and I said, you know what, this just isn't for me, and I need something more. I need something more entrepreneurial, and I kind of tried some different businesses at that time. I did some network marketing businesses. I tried selling things on eBay, and I tried a lot of different things, and nothing really worked until I started reading some books about really wealthy people, and most of them made their wealth from real estate. So I was 2007. I was looking on the internet, and I found a house in Ohio, Youngstown, Ohio, for $9,000. And this is like really at the end of 2007. So the market is really starting to go down. People are starting to freak out. And I didn't know any better. I was just looking for cheap houses. And I found this $9,000 house online in Youngstown, Ohio. And I ended up getting that under contract and then selling that for $15,000. And I made $6,000 and one transaction. And I was a substitute school teacher at that time. And I was used to making $1,200 to $1,500 a month. So to make $6,000 in one transaction, that was like 4 months of working really hard, right? So that's kind of when it all happened. And I asked myself, you know what, if I could do this with one house, could I do it with 100 or 1,000? And then 13 years later, 2020, I've been doing this ever since. And I think we've flipped, bought and sold. I've lost count, but I think it's around the 3,000 mark of houses or deals that I've been a part of, bought and sold. Right now, we're doing about 300 a year for the past 4 years or so. It's been pretty cool. It's been a pretty awesome journey.
Wow.
Nice. Has it all been in the Indianapolis market?
So we've done some different markets. Right now, yes, Indianapolis. We're going deep there. So Indianapolis and the surrounding areas of Indianapolis. But through the years, I've done different markets. I've done Cincinnati, Ohio, Dayton, Ohio. I got into Florida at one time back in 2009 to 2011 when Florida was just a huge, super cheap houses. I used to buy down to Fort Myers and Lehigh Acres and Orlando. So I got into that market for a while. But right now, deep in Indianapolis, my backyard, and it's really, really good. And I just, I've had that conversation, should you go deep or wide? And we've been able to do 300 plus transactions just in Indianapolis. And I asked myself, to start a whole new market, it's just a different ball game. So we just kind of staying here right now.
Yeah, I was going to mention that the differences between working outside of your backyard and, the issues that you have, working afar, so to speak, without having feet on the ground.
Yeah. And every state's a little bit different. I mean, you gotta, and I had to learn even when I did Florida and I did Ohio. Florida does the state tax, at the closing, right? And instead of paying the income tax, and some people use attorneys rather than title companies. I don't know. So you just got to learn the whole new and building your team, and then figuring out how you're gonna run comps and figure out if it's a dangerous area or a good area, or it's just a lot to figure out. So it's a lot of pieces put together.
So are you doing fix and flip, buy and hold, wholesaling, or whatever works for the deal?
Well, I've done a lot in the last 13 years. So I got into wholesaling because I didn't have a lot of money, and we would just buy and sell and assign contracts and do it that way for about the first 5 years or so. This was 2007 to 2012. The market started coming back, so then I started fixing and flipping. And I remember doing that for about 3 years, and my dad started getting involved. He was a high school shop teacher, industrial arts, so he knew a lot about woodworking and things like that. So we would fix up houses, and I just remember some of the stories. I remember literally at midnight, I'm in a house sanding the floors and staining them, and I asked myself, what am I doing? This is crazy. And it was tough. It was a real job. And then in 2014, 15. I said, you know what? I like chasing deals. I like getting them under contract, and I like, that model. So really we wholesale and wholetail. So we do buy them, clean them out, and then sell them as well. And then we do a lot of seller financing. So I am into financing, kind of like what you guys do. I've really enjoyed that model, where we buy a house, we clean it out, we fix up a little bit, and then we seller finance it to an investor or to a homeowner too sometimes. So I do enjoy that. So we got about 100. Well, we used to have about 100 seller financing transactions. Now we got about 70 because I ended up selling off about 30 this year.
Oh, wow.
So
yeah, we just had Bob Repass on the earlier show with Note School and Note Expo, and we were talking about how we much prefer to control the asset than be responsible for the asset. So that's why we're in the note business too.
Yeah, there's definitely some benefits to it. So I definitely highly enjoy that business, just because you're totally hands off. You see the money coming in, and most of the time, the last time I talk to the borrower or the homeowner is when we close, and then we have systems where we set it all up. But this year, my accountant did say, hey, you might try to buy some rentals, because that would help your tax liabilities. So yeah. I don't know. So I guess there's just kind of that as well.
Well, here's what you do. You passively invest in someone's fund who has property ownership, and they can pass through your depreciation to you, and you still don't have to be responsible.
Love it. I need it. I'll have to hear more about that. Actually, I'm interested already.
Well, Brett, you've had a long journey here, and I think a lot of people realize, and if they don't, they come to realize soon, that the easiest way to get into real estate is through wholesaling. Like that's the easiest way, because you can do it with almost no money. But it's also one of the hardest jobs out there. What advice would you give people trying to get into this space of, stones to step over, or just little kernels that might help them along the way?
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. I mean, we actually host a meetup here in Indianapolis, and we typically have 50 to 100 people in the room, and we're teaching how to wholesale, actually. And if you want to check out that here in Indianapolis, it's called the Wholesaling Made Simple Meetup. But yeah, we're always trying to teach other people what this process looks like. And I would just, highly recommend that. This does take a lot of work. It is a simple model, but it's not easy at all. And that's why we came up with Simple Wholesaling. The model is actually pretty simple. You go out, you find deals, you get them under contract, and then you find investors, and then you just match the two together. You match the investor with the deal, right? Yeah. But to actually find deals is very, very difficult, and that's where the expertise and the experience comes in, is because if you have to find good deals. So there's a lot of marketing involved, and there's big companies now. You know, when I first got started 13 years ago, no one really knew what wholesaling was. I don't even think that was a term at all. I was just, there wasn't a lot of courses about it. And I didn't really know. I just kind of learned from experience. But now there's a lot of information out there. You can look at courses. There's big companies that have really turned this into a business, right? Wholesaling used to just be the stepping stone. This is how I'm going to get started, right? And then I'm going to get into real estate investing, and that is fixing and flipping or buying and holding or apartments or whatever. And then wholesaling was always a stepping stone. But what I found out and what other people have found out is you can really do very well and make this a very legitimate business, right? The stepping stones, I would just say, is you have to learn. It's kind of a marketing business, and you have to learn to market, right? So, what we do is you have to learn to get leads, right? In any business, how do you get leads? And you can do it the free way, where you're knocking on people's doors or you're cold calling people, or, that's some of the free ways, or you can do things that cost money. And that's where direct mail, we do a lot of direct mail. We have television commercials that actually, people are watching, especially in these days. People are watching the TV a lot. So we have television commercials, we have radio commercials, different things like that. So that brings our leads in, but then you have to have a system to work the leads, right? And that's where a lot of people, fail too. It's like the money is always in the follow-up. You never get it on the first conversation. Sometimes we're talking to someone 10 times before we get the deal. So It's all about systems and developing that process. And that's what we've done. I've built a great team here in Indianapolis. We've built systems around it. So I get the leads to come in. We have a great team to handle the leads, and we have a great system where now I have been able to step out of the business because of all of those puzzle pieces. And it's been pretty cool. But I would just say wholesaling is mostly a marketing. It's a marketing business. So you have to be good at marketing and just learn marketing.
Yeah. And you're right. Most people think, you get into wholesaling, then you get into fix and flips, and then you do the long-term rentals. And then once you've built up enough wealth, now you can be a lender. And, they think that's the genesis of how things, are supposed to happen. And I love that you've made a complete model out of, what most people think is the first step. And you've made a very successful model out of the first step that I would say most lenders would be envious of where you are in your businesses, because you have, literally no risk. Like it's a great, you make money with no risk.
Yeah. Obviously the risk comes in, especially if you're assigning contracts, and we do buy and we close on a lot of our deals, and that obviously is risk, but is the reputation. I think, if you look around, a lot of wholesalers don't have very good reputations because they don't think about the consequences of their actions. So, so for me, as a person that I want to run a successful business and have a good reputation and a good brand, we always try to do things the right way. And so if we get a property under contract, we take that really seriously. Like, we're not just going to say, oh, if we don't sell it, we're just going to walk away. Like, we don't hardly ever do that. We make sure we're treating that person right. And I've had to do things that I didn't really want to do, but it kind of saved our reputation in a lot of different ways. So I think that the risk is your reputation. If you want to make this into a business, you have to do things the right way and listen to the right people teaching those. So
yeah, no, great advice. Bill, you're muted. You're muted. He's over there talking.
God, I love COVID. I've been coughing, so I put it on mute, and then I forgot to take it off. Anyway, we did have a question about recommending a fund that has the pass-through depreciation. We have a friend, Greg Hughes. If Scott can get a chance to put Hughes Capital up on the screen when you get a chance, that'd be great. But he buys single-family rentals in the Midwest and rents them out. And if you're in that fund, you can do two things. You can get that pass through of the depreciation, and if you have a 1031 exchange, you can actually count that and still be passively in a fund, because they'll make sure that they have a property that is actually in your name, and then that way it will qualify for 1031 exchange as well, which is pretty cool.
That's awesome.
I love the meetup. Are you doing this monthly? Are you doing this weekly, or you have like a group of local mastermind type things? How's that working?
Yeah, we do it once a month. So we've been actually doing it for about 3+ years. Most of the time we get together. It's the fourth Wednesday of the month, and we just take a topic about wholesaling, and then we just teach about it. So sometimes it's about how to talk to sellers. Sometimes it's about how to get leads. Sometimes it's about how to sell properties. Sometimes we have a panel up there about title companies and what to look for. So we do different topics each year. And we teach wholesalers. So that's one thing that I just kind of learned, is that if, most people say, why would you ever do that? Because, you're creating competition for yourself and your own market. And I just kind of like flip that around. And I'm always like, if I can bring value to people and to an audience, then the value also come back to us. So what's actually happened is we're teaching other wholesalers in our market how to wholesale. And some of them have gone off and done some pretty amazing things, but a lot of them, especially at first, they bring us deals, right? They partner with us on their deals, and it just kind of works out both ways. So we're educating, but then we also get a lot of traction from it as well. So I would highly recommend, if you're in a market and you're doing whatever it is, it could be lending, it could be notes, it could be fixing and flipping, host a meetup. I think it's just, brings a lot of value to people in your market. And also, we also kind of link up with some of the RIAs in our market. So they also push our meetup as well. So I think that's important.
Yeah. Wendy and I both have RIA subgroups that we host. I do a once a month. Wendy does once a week. I don't know how she comes up with content.
she doesn't cover content. She's got like 70 people in there who are just crazy, well-educated investors, and each one of them teaches something. It's amazing.
Yeah, there's probably 40 of them that could run the meeting themselves. So
yeah,
that's a benefit for her. That's for sure.
I just think that's the magic too, just the collaboration, and that's why I'm part of several masterminds. I've been part of that, and then. So sometimes you think you have to come up with all this content and education, but sometimes just the magic is just getting like-minded people in the same room. They have questions, right? And a lot of times it's just, hey, what questions do you have about certain things? And you're just answering people's questions, off the platform as well.
So on I don't know about the rules in Indiana, but I know wholesale there's some states that are requiring you to have a real estate license. Is that one of them?
Indiana's not right now. Obviously, some of our, connecting states, I think Ohio has came out with some things that are like that. They require you to have a license. But as of right now, everything's still on the up, and I actually have my license. And I've had it for 10+ years, and we've never had any issues, as long as, again, we're up front. We're trying to do the right things. We're not trying to take advantage of people, and we disclose it, right? So if you have your license, say, hey, we have a real estate license, but we're not wanting to list your home or wanting to buy it. And we're investors, right? And we're investors that have a license, and we're just upfront about it, and haven't ever had an issue.
Well, I was going to mention that there's nothing wrong with having to get a license if you're in a state that requires a license.
Yeah. And getting a license is not hard. I mean, it's here in Indiana. I don't know, and maybe some states are different, but getting a license here in Indiana it's not a difficult thing, right? I think it's like $500, and then you take a course, which isn't that hard, take a test, and it's not a hard thing. It's not like you're going to a 2-year, school to get your license or anything like that.
Yeah.
Well, again, any education is a worthwhile effort as far as I'm concerned.
I really enjoyed actually the classes Yeah, I enjoyed the classes. I learned a lot by getting my license, and some of the things you think you don't need, but just, what's the differences of deeds, quit claim deed versus warranty deed, some of the fair housing laws, which we don't like to talk about, but it's very important to talk about, and learning what those are, environmental laws. So I think it's really, really worthwhile. I learned a lot.
And for selfish reasons, I'm saying you should do a little inner circle kind of meet up for folks that want to take their business to the next level. That's something you should think about doing too.
We're actually considering that, and we haven't launched it yet. But for next year, 2021, that's one of the things that I think that being a part of mastermind groups is really, really important. But a lot of times when you're part of a mastermind group, you got people flying in from all over the nation to meet at some central location, and I've always tried to think, how can you create a local mastermind group? But a lot of people don't do that because it's creating competition. So for me, it's like, hey, let's get all the wholesalers in one room. Well, in your local market, I don't know if that would bring the value that we would want it to. But real estate has a lot of different industries, right? So I was thinking about that, and you got wholesalers, fix and flippers, note buyers, lenders, title companies, insurance companies, property management companies, buy and hold people. So, and I was thinking, yeah, that would be awesome if you get maybe 2 people from each industry in the same room to help them scale their business. That's something we've been kind of toying around with for sure. Do you guys have that, or?
No.
Right. It's something you guys should do too.
Yes.
We are all about the education thing. We want to, and we get the same problem too. Why are you telling everything you know? You're going to create competition, and we all have the same attitude that you have. Is that it's an attitude of abundance, and we will. It's great if somebody comes in, learns what we do, and starts their own business. They're not necessarily competition. We'll end up doing business together on something. They'll have a deal that they can't do, and vice versa, and we'll share it amongst each other. That's fine. All it does is, in my mind, is build a larger network, and then you're also going to be surrounding yourself with people that are going to up your game as well. And I think that's more of a benefit than worrying about somebody taking an extra crumb off your plate. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah. And you get so much personally too. So especially if you get into a room with other business owners, other entrepreneurs, and we all have different business and professional challenges, but we have personal challenges too. And I think a lot of times as entrepreneurs and business owners, we feel a little misunderstood. So if we go to our church or have a small group within our church, and they all, your whole group has normal jobs and 9-to-5 jobs, and you're kind of this entrepreneur and you feel a little bit misunderstood and people don't really understand you. So I feel like if you can get into a room with other entrepreneurs, you can also do a lot personally too, because a lot of us struggle with personal things too, our marriages, our parenting, our health, right? I mean, I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with the stress and anxiety that running a business has on you. So I don't know. I think there's definitely a lot to that as well.
Yeah. I'm going to take that and kind of, what you said earlier when we first started this, about doing more good or spreading more of the word through business, through the marketplace than through the pulpit. And I think that's so true because day in and day out, people get to see your actions as opposed to your words. And actions, I think, are so important, far more than words. And it's easy, I think, in a lot of people's minds to stand somewhere and say something. It's a lot more difficult to day in and day out do what you say you're doing and carry those actions. And I think that's where the impact really takes place with the business or your small communities or your inner circle groups. That's where it happens. Yes, exactly. Yeah, for sure. And I do agree. Yeah, actions. And as a business owner, you get to see a lot of that. And then if you get really close with other business owners and entrepreneurs, they get to see
on your personal side too, your actions. Because I can say whatever I want on this interview, but
Yep.
when I go home, I could be a complete monster,
Well, I mean, yeah, you could, people can get on here and say pretty things and, go back to work and they're the worst boss and they treat their employees terribly. And,
Yes.
we see it every day with people that we work with and choose not to work with anymore. You see that a lot. And it's, when you find the ones who actually do what they say, and they're, even if they don't even talk, most of them don't even talk about it. Most of them just do it. And those are the people that you want to pull into your circle.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the humbleness of it. And that's obviously the Christ-like quality is the humbleness. And a lot of times the humbleness, or they just don't really think about themselves as much. They just constantly think about other people. And a lot of times they're just not remembered because they're kind of an memorable person, right? Because they're thinking about other people all the time, right?
Yeah.
So,
no, I think
that's me. That's why I have no stress. I sit there. My goal in life is to make sure that I have as little responsibility as possible.
I love that.
So, in case you guys were wondering, Wendy fell out. She every day for like 16 days she's been running a slight fever thanks to this stupid COVID thing, and Wendy reached her point and bowed out. She says sorry. love the first part of the interview.
Yeah.
Brent,
can I talk about just a little bit about just this year? This is something I'm really, really passionate about.
Yeah, absolutely.
And and I just want to kind of talk to the entrepreneurs out there too, that maybe you're in this space. And let me just tell you a little bit about where I was at in 2020. So for the past several, 2-3 years, one of my goals was to get out of the business, to step out, to let the team run the business so I could have freedom, right? So I could do the things that I'm really passionate about and not be handcuffed to my desk all the time and just to the business. So 2020 hit, COVID comes around March, all the businesses shut down, and I'm freaking out a little bit about what's going to happen to our business. And honestly, one of the thoughts I had was, if our business goes under, or if we minimize our business to only a few people, like, I would be okay with all that. Honestly, like, a relief kind of came over me, but like, that would be something that I could desire. And at that point, I realized maybe I wasn't the best visionary of the company anymore, and maybe I should let the team run with this company. So that's what I did. So our COO at the time, Brian Snyder, I said, hey, here's how I'm feeling. Do you want to be CEO? Do you want to run this whole ship? And I'll be in the owner's box. I'll still own it, but I'll step over, and whatever decisions you decide, I'll be your biggest supporter and fan, and it's your vision now. And he said yes. So for the past 5 months, that's kind of what has happened. So what does that kind of mean is I've had this freedom to be able to do a lot of things that I wasn't maybe able to do. I've been able to travel with my family. I've been able to really spend time with them, pour into them. I've been able to take a step back, number one, and actually think. Sometimes when you're in the middle of something, you can't really think because you're just in the middle of it all, right? The health, what I've talked about. I remember a couple of years ago, I was sitting in a hospital, getting an EKG done on my heart because I'm having chest pains and anxiety and all that stuff. And I haven't had that since. So that's been like a huge thing. And not saying our business wasn't going good, but it's like, there's a lot of pressure on the business owner. You got all this people asking you all these questions, making all these huge decisions and all that. Right. And that was just kind of getting to me. So I just want to encourage those people out there that this is something that I've achieved and that you can achieve. And it really was just a decision, right? And it's having those hard conversations and those hard reflections on really what you want. And it can be achieved, but you also have to kill off a lot or some of the different things. And some of the things I had to realize was, if I was going to step out of the business, I had to be humble about it, right? I couldn't let my ego get in the way. So I wasn't going to be the face of the business anymore. And that had to be okay with me. It wasn't my vision anymore. That had to be okay with me, right? This other team could run it without me, and it's not all, I'm not Mr. Superman over here having to make all these big decisions, and I had to be okay with all that. So I just want to kind of point that out there, because this is the journey that I'm on. I love teaching people how to achieve that, because I'm in a lot of masterminds. I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs, and I even asked Jason Medley, the leader of Collective Genius. I said, hey, Jason, I would love to meet other people who have made that decision in their lives, right? And he couldn't name a lot, right? He named a couple, and I said, Jason, why hasn't people, made that shift? And he said, well, there's people that could, they just don't make that decision. So, and I'm just trying to figure out the reasons why and things like that. So like, I don't know if anybody is listening here that wants that freedom. I love to just talk about it and kind of share with you, some of the things that I went through, because it's not fun. It takes a lot of courage. And it takes more courage to step out of your business than it is to when you started it in the first place. So you take yourself back when you started this, you were scared. You go through those same feelings with this. And it's just kind of journey I've been on, and I love to share it if anybody's interested.
Well,
that's great.
First of all, that's awesome. Number one, it's very difficult for entrepreneurs to give up control.
Stop entrepreneuring.
Their identities and self-worth seem to be wrapped up into that.
Yeah. And I guess to your point too, Jonathan, that's one of the fears I think that people fear, is if they step out, they love creating, right? They love being an entrepreneur, and they'll have to stop doing that, and they'll have to sit on a beach somewhere and be bored to tears, right? And that's not the case either. You can still create, because that's how we were created. I was made to create, but it's just different. Now I'm back and I'm getting passionate about things, and I'm creating things, mission things. And I don't know, it just kind of gets these creative juices flowing. So I guess I want to encourage those. You don't have to stop, I guess, just because you step out. You can still do the things, but you have options, right? And I think that's the big difference.
Yeah. The decisions and choices made out of fear usually end in resentment, either by you or the party that you're, making the choice with. So it's fear-based decisions are never very good decisions, or don't seem to be.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, we have a quick question from Mark. He wants to know, how is the income shared since you've backed away? Thank you, Scott. I'm looking in the wrong place now.
I see here.
Are your people employees? Did your income go down when you pulled back? How did that work out for you?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So, so the way I did it was I had all these thoughts going through my mind. So number one, I could give up equity in the company. Is that something that people would want? But I'm in a wholesaling business, so is equity worth a lot? I don't know. The money's in the kind of the systems and in the houses and the team, I guess. So that was one thing I didn't really want to do, because I've heard horror stories about that. I could try to sell the business. So that's one thing, but who's going to buy a wholesaling business? I could maybe own or finance it to the team. So that was the thought I had. But what I came up with is, hey, what if because I still wanted to own the business, because it's a very profitable business. Sure. But I wanted to give up more pieces of the pie, that if the team wanted to grow it, then they were getting, right? So my proposal was, I just did more profit sharing. So especially for the leadership team, I just carved up and say, hey, if we reach this point, I'll give you this much of a percentage, and it's a sliding scale. But if we reach this much profit this year, then I'm going to give you more. And if you reach this much, then I'm going to give like half the money away to the leadership team. So I started to just do more of a profit sharing bonus plan, and that's how I carved it up. So, but everybody's situation is a little bit different. Some people might want equity, some people don't. But again, I look at the risk, right? And we still have all the risk. Like, I'm still the owner, and I still have the money out there. I still have all the risk. And a lot of the team, they don't want risk, right? They would rather just have the money, the profit sharing plan, that if you do make money, but if you don't make money, I still have a lot of the risk, right? So it just worked for us.
Well, I think what you end up finding out when you back away give other people more responsibility, what you end up with is a lot of times you become the choke point. And by giving up a lot of the responsibilities and allowing other people to make those decisions, they are quite competent in doing so. And your business ends up growing larger without you than with you. Does that make sense?
I agree. Actually, the quick story. So this is October now. September, Brian, who's the CEO, comes to me and he asks me for the records of our company. Like, what's the record gross profit? What's the record net profit? And the whole 13 years you've been doing it, give me the records. So I go through my records and I look up and I find all these records, right? Well, last month they broke them all.
Wow.
Man,
and
awesome.
and I didn't even work in the business. So that was just another example of number one, it starts to give me a lot of confidence about what we're doing. And a number, so a lot of times we say, if we have an employee, we say, our business has outgrown this person. And you're like, but this person started with me. I mean, they were my first employee 10 years ago and I can't let them go, but your business has outgrown that person. And honestly, as a business owner, I feel like our business has outgrown me. And that was just something I had to realize. Just even last month, I think that was just gave me the confidence that was a great decision that I made. And Mark asked about my income. I mean, my income actually has gone up since I've stepped out. Well, all the businesses do that.
Especially if you count it, if you spread it across by hours that you spend on it. You know,
exactly.
You know, your dollars per hour have definitely gone up.
Yes, exactly. And I think you're right, Bill. What I learned was when you let go, the leaders step up. And that's what I've seen on our team. Like, I'm not there anymore to ask questions to. And my biggest comment that if anybody ever asks me a question, which I don't get that many questions anymore 5 months into this, but at first I did. And I would always say, what do you decide? I'll support whatever you decide on that decision. And I started saying that, and now they don't even ask me; they just decide.
Right.
So
it's like Jocko Willink in his book about extreme ownership and allowing other people to make these decisions, as long as they know the why and the plan. It's a whole lot easier for them to make those field decisions on their own without having to come to you. And if everybody has to come to you, then again, you're the choke point. And
that's what Brian said too when I offered him the CEO position. So this is what he said on a show recently is, so what I told him, I had a lot of relief. And then when I told him, he said he had a lot of relief. And I started to ask that, and he said, because things go so much faster now. It's just like if someone asks him a question, they make the decision. He doesn't have to say, okay, well, let me check on Brett. We're going to meet next week, and it's just slow, right? Yeah. So it just has helped a lot in this system and processes as well.
Well, I told you this would last like 35, 40 minutes, and we've been here for almost an hour.
It's been
we certainly appreciate your time.
Well, thank you. Thanks, Bill. Thanks, Jonathan. And hope Wendy gets a feeling better, and you guys all do. So yeah. I appreciate you having me on the show.
Thank you very much. Hang in there in the green room for just a moment, if you don't mind. Folks, thank you so much. I know you guys enjoyed this. Brett's got a great story, and it's something that if you're an entrepreneur, it's something that needs to be followed and understood. You turn out better for everybody involved in your business if you end up letting a few more people make the decisions than just you, because you end up, as I said earlier, becoming a choke point in that business, and you're the one that's holding it back. And you hate to hear that because it was your baby from the first, the beginning. Again, we're Carolina Capital Management. We make loans. Our website is carolinahardmoney.com. If you're interested in borrowing money, go to the borrower tab and click on apply now. If you're interested in passive returns, go to the investor tab and click that on. Don't forget to subscribe, share, like, hit the bell, do a backflip, whatever it takes. If you have any additional questions, you can add them to the comments. Again, we always have people that scour this afterwards as well. Jonathan, thank you so much. And you folks have a wonderful day.